Picture this, a city shaped like a giant Bitcoin, built right at the base of a volcano. A place with zero income tax, zero property tax, all of it powered by clean, geothermal energy. Now this isn't science fiction, this is the incredibly audacious plan for Bitcoin City in El Salvador. But is this a revolutionary blueprint for our future, or is it just a high-tech mirage, masking a really dangerous political agenda? Let's unpack one of the most ambitious and controversial projects of our time.
And this is the promise, right? Laid out crystal clear by the project's architect, President Nayib Bukele. It's a statement that's practically designed to attract a whole new class of global citizens. Think tech entrepreneurs, digital nomads, crypto investors, by basically creating the ultimate tax haven. For a country that's been using the US dollar for over 20 years, this is way more than just a pitch for a new city. It's a radical attempt to completely rewire its economic DNA.
So what is this city supposed to actually look like? Well, the plans show this perfectly circular city with a huge central plaza shaped like the Bitcoin logo, something you could see from a plane. It's meant to be a physical monument to a digital idea. And the whole thing, from houses to factories, is supposed to run on power from the Conchagua volcano right next door. And get this, the way they're funding this vision is just as wild as the city itself. $1 billion bond, backed entirely by Bitcoin. This isn't just about building a city. It's about building a whole new ecosystem on a totally new financial standard.
Okay, let's look under the hood. How in the world do you finance a futuristic city without taxes or, going to the usual suspects like the IMF, who have historically had a ton of influence over the country's economy? El Salvador's answer is the Volcano Bond. And this is where the crazy ideas start to get very, very real.
All right, so let's break this down, because this is the crucial part. It's a $1 billion bond, and it matures in 10 years. For investors, it's promising a 6.5% annual interest payment. But the revolutionary part is what it's for. It's designed to fund Bitcoin City and build up a Bitcoin war chest for the nation's treasury at the same time. It's a debt instrument that's also a massive bet on a digital asset. As this table makes super clear, the strategy is basically a two-pronged attack. That $1 billion they're trying to raise, it's not just for construction. Half of it, a full $500 million, is earmarked to buy Bitcoin directly to build up a national reserve. The other $500 million goes to the hard stuff, building the city, and, critically, the geothermal plants that will power both the city and future Bitcoin mining. So it's a two-part plan: build a national reserve and then build the engine to keep growing it.
So let's walk through how this is supposed to play out if you're an investor. First, the bonds get issued as digital tokens on Blockstream's Liquid network. This makes them super accessible 24/7 with a minimum investment of just $100. For the first 5 years, El Salvador just holds the Bitcoin and pays you that steady 6.5% interest. But then comes the real kicker, the Bitcoin dividend. After that 5-year mark, the government starts selling some of its Bitcoin. Once they've made back their initial investment, they split 50% of any profits with the bondholders. It creates this crazy hybrid asset. You get the steady income of a bond with the potential explosive upside of a high-growth tech stock.
So the bond is the spark, the initial cash injection. But the long-term plan, that's even more radical. We're talking about trying to create a kind of perpetual motion machine for the national treasury. How? By turning the country's greatest natural resource, its volcanoes, into a machine that, in a way, prints hard global digital currency.
And this is where it all started. The government took an initial 1.5 megawatts of power from a state-owned geothermal plant. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was the proof of concept. They literally set up shipping containers packed with these super powerful computers, ASIC miners, that do nothing but mine Bitcoin. And this is the setup that President Bukele famously called the volcanode.
So what has that little experiment actually produced? Well, as of early 2024, those geothermal mining operations have put about 474 Bitcoin directly into the national treasury. And think about that for a second. This is new wealth that's not generated by taxes or by borrowing from foreign lenders, but by harnessing the heat right beneath their feet. Every single Satoshi mined is a tiny step toward financial independence.
And to put that into perspective, those 474 Bitcoin are worth around $30 million US. That's a real, tangible return. Proponents argue this is the sovereignty engine in action, a nation using its own resources to create a censorship-resistant asset, building a shield against global inflation and the strings that often come attached to money from international financial institutions.
So that's the grand vision, right? The mechanics behind the dream. It's a bold, complex plan, and there's a lot to debate. We're about to dive into the really controversial stuff, but if you're finding this breakdown valuable, do us a quick favor and support the channel by hitting that like and subscribe button. It really helps us break down more topics just like this. And hey, let us know in the comments, based on what you've heard so far, is this genius or is it just madness?
All right. Now, for every single one of those utopian promises, there's a flip side, a really dystopian warning. And Bitcoin City and the Volcano Bond have just ignited a firestorm of criticism. This isn't just a debate about economics anymore. It's a battle over a nation's soul, its politics, and its entire future. Let's get into the great debate.
And this right here just illustrates the divide perfectly. On one side, you've got the sovereignty engine story. This is all about breaking free from the IMF, creating a new way for nations to develop, using their own resources for wealth, and getting real monetary independence. But on the other side, critics are calling it crypto-colonialism. They argue it's just creating a safe haven for bad actors to hide from justice, that crypto companies are buddying up with an increasingly authoritarian government, and that the whole project is just a shiny distraction from a serious crackdown on civil liberties.
And this quote from a critical article in Protos cuts right to the heart of the political fight. The companies providing the tech for the Volcano Bond, like Bitfinex and Blockstream, are being accused of basically being complicit in what critics call techno-fascism. They're questioning the ethics of partnering with a government that's changed the Constitution to allow for re-election and has used the military to intimidate lawmakers. It completely reframes the debate. It's not an economic choice, it's a moral one.
And the criticisms are coming from everywhere. The IMF has been warning over and over again about the risks here. Environmentalists are saying, hey, hold on, large-scale geothermal extraction isn't totally harmless. A lot of people see it as a shiny object to distract from Bukele's mano dura, or hard hand policy, which has led to mass arrests and the suspension of civil rights. There's also the fear that offering citizenship to big investors is just going to attract international criminals. And maybe the most damaging criticism of all, on the ground, most Salvadorans just aren't using Bitcoin. They still prefer the stability of the US dollar they already know.
So, you can see the stakes here could not be higher. This isn't just about whether one city or one bond succeeds or fails. It's about a fundamental test of a whole new ideology. El Salvador has placed a massive, nation-sized bet, and the outcome could completely redefine what it means to be a sovereign nation in the digital age.
This quote from a Salvadoran-American engineer who's been critical of the government, man, it just captures the deep sense of unease that so many people feel. For them, it feels like history is repeating itself. They see this promise of tech liberation being used to actually cement control, and they just feel helpless as this project steamrolls forward with the full power of the state behind it. It's a powerful reminder of the very real human cost and the deep, deep divisions this whole thing has created.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Is El Salvador pioneering a path for emerging nations to finally achieve true financial freedom, a blueprint that others will follow to escape the so-called debt trap of the old system? Or is it a cautionary tale, a playbook showing how the tools of decentralization can actually be twisted to build a highly centralized authoritarian state, attracting shady money while ignoring the needs of its own people? The whole world is watching, and the final chapter of this story has yet to be written.